Hello. On the day the economy shrank by 0.1%, this was what was going on in the rest of the world. I mean, let's start with that bit. The economy has shrunk by 0.1%. Shock me. Woo! Who was not expecting that? Hands up if you weren't expecting that. No hands up. Turns out the Labour Party think we're even more stupid than we previously thought they thought we were. And it's all Jaguar Land Rover's fault. I mean, we could have written that one, couldn't we? If it's not the Tories' fault. I mean, how long will everything be Jaguar Land Rover's fault? Now, we know my history with Jaguar Land Rover is not good. We know that I don't hold them in high regard, I think would be the understatement of the year. However, even I can see that this isn't their fault. Even I can see that this is just another scapegoat for the government to put their "we've screwed it up" hat on. And it's laughable, it's depressing, it's predictable, it's mind-numbingly unoriginal, and it makes them even less credible than they were yesterday, which we didn't think was a thing until it was a thing today. So there we go. Oh, please do like, subscribe and share. Hang on a minute. Let's have a look, because I can see it on my phone. It's like live ticker tape. Refresh. 51,968 subscribers. Yes, YouTubers! Let's go. Let's get that up to 52,000. Come on, let's try. Like, subscribe and share. Now, today, I've got one name on my lips, and it is Bridget Phillipson's. Now, hang on a minute before you all go, you're always banging on about her. Well, yeah, because she is sort of like the root cause of all disasters in this country, closely followed by Keir Starmer. And the reason I say that she is the root cause is because she's affecting children directly, which is then spilling out into the rest of the UK. So Bridge has excelled herself. Now, again, it's another thing like saying Labour is even more incompetent today than it was yesterday. We all went, God, who thought we'd say that? Well, turns out Bridget Phillipson is even more incompetent today than she was yesterday. Incompetent. Now, that's quite a description of somebody, and she will take exception of that. She will say she does not accept that. Why do I think Bridget Phillipson is incompetent? Well, because of, I'm sure as a person, she's perfectly competent, but in the role of Education Secretary, she is incompetent. Why do I think she is incompetent? Well, I don't think she understands education or children, and I think they're two quite key factors in being Education Secretary. It's a little bit like going to your GP and saying, could you possibly fit me in for a frontal lobotomy if you've got 10 minutes in between lunch and afternoon tea? I haven't got time to go and see a brain surgeon, so if you wouldn't mind doing it, I mean, you're a general practitioner, you've been to medical school, you've got some kind of background in this stuff, haven't you? Surely that's not going to be too much of an ask. And they might turn around and say, not qualified to do that. I am indeed a general practitioner / doctor, but I can't do brain surgery. So what's the likeness? Well, Bridget Phillipson went to school. So she's got some kind of experience in education. She went to school. And that's where it ends. Does she have the specialist educational background knowledge and expertise to be in charge of an education system that is multi-layered, multifaceted, and in desperate need of some expert help? No, she doesn't. A little bit like the doctor who was on the radio this morning and said, I don't know why the government don't just trust us to do our jobs instead of telling us to focus on online systems when we could actually be helping people. It's like, yes. Exactly that. The government have got such control issues. They just want to control every aspect of everything, and they don't trust the people who are actually qualified to do it, which makes them incompetent. And it's a dereliction of duty. They are not fit for purpose. So why has Bridget Phillipson pulled my chain, apart from being Bridget Phillipson? Well, let's have a look. In Bridget's latest little ditty on social media, this investment will change lives. It'll go towards bespoke calming spaces to help children with additional needs to get the support they need at a good local school on their doorstep. Labour is building schools where every child can thrive and achieve. Well, for a start, she's referring to councils giving £3 billion to create more spaces for SEND pupils. That's what she's referring to, although it's not clear in her tweet. Clearly, she didn't do sentence construction at school. So This investment of £3 billion will change lives. It'll go towards bespoke calming spaces, which I suspect the teachers might nick, and they might have those as their staff rooms, because teachers are leaving at a rate of knots. We are 400 teachers down since Labour came into power. We are not recruiting teachers at the rate of knots that we were promised. 6,500 that we were promised by the end of Parliament. We're not even up 1,000, I don't think. And so teachers are overworked, overstressed, and not specialist send educators or supporters. So we're creating calming spaces to help children with additional needs to get the support they need at a good local school on their doorstep. So Bridget Phillipson is prioritising a school being on your doorstep as the key to all your answers. It's fine. All of your send problems that you've had, don't worry, I'm going to fix it with your school being on your doorstep. I mean, regardless of whether it's the right school for you or not, regardless of whether it actually meets your needs, it's on your doorstep. And that's what I want, because I'm Bridget Phillipson. And I think it's important that you should have a school on your doorstep. I don't think it's important, really, if that school doesn't sort of like cater for the amount of children in the local area or the amount of children's needs in the local area. I'm not bothered whether that school has the right number of staff to cater for those children. I couldn't really give a toss whether that school's got enough classrooms. I just want it to be on your doorstep. That's what I'm going to focus on, the school being on your doorstep. Everything else, screw that. Who gives a shit? Well, turns out the parents do. Because let's have a look at which children need the specialist support. So they're the special educational needs and disabilities children. Now, if you are the parent of one of those, you are going to know exactly what I'm going to say next. Well, you probably aren't going to know what I'm going to say next, but you'll resonate with what I'm going to say next. We're a different breed. So we have faced, since the day dot of our children's educational career, some form of challenges and obstacle courses. I mean, it's like being an SAS commando by the time you get your kid through sixth form, if you do. It's like you've achieved some kind of stripes that you could only achieve in combative action. So to get a child with special educational needs and disabilities, any kind of help in this country, is a little bit like juggling with jelly. It's fucking impossible. And it's because all children are individual, and so all children with special educational needs and disabilities have individual needs. We don't have the support out there. We don't have the system out there. Successive governments, you blame who you like, I don't care. I'm talking about right now, today. What's the date? It is December the 12th. So on December the 12th, 2025, we do not have the support system that we need for our children. We have some good ideas floating around in the ether, but we don't actually have it. Now, what we did have was an infrastructure that ran parallel to the state system. And that was where a lot of children with special educational needs and disabilities went. They went to small independent schools or specialist schools or schools that could cater for those needs. Now, that came at a cost. That came at a cost to the parents. But the parents robbed Peter to pay Paul, played with the devil, did deals with the devil, or could just afford it. But either way, parents made sacrifices or made decisions or made choices to send their children to those schools so that they could get the support they needed, recognising that the support in the state system was non-existent. So when Bridget Phillipson added VAT onto education, and when Bridget Phillipson closed 46 free schools and 58 special schools, that meant that the system, the state system, was going to be overcrowded, and the SEND system in state was going to be even more overcrowded than it was 17 months ago before Labour came into power. So she created her own fucking disaster. So we've got 1.7 million children that need support. That will go up because we've got all the kids coming out of the independent sector. So let's call it 1.8 million just for the sake of explaining it all. They need support, and we're putting £3 billion into creating nice spaces for them. Where's that money coming from? Where in the budget is that coming from? Where's that £3 billion coming from? Answers on a postcard or on the back of an SOS, please help me, my school is drowning. I couldn't give a shit where you get me the answers from. I want the answers. Where is that £3 billion coming from? And then I want to know who is supporting these children in the spaces. Who is trained to support the special educational needs children in these spaces? Are they special educational needs experts? Or are they teachers that have done an online course in how to help a child with avoidance issues? Now, I'm not saying that online course isn't useful. I'm not saying it doesn't raise awareness. In fact, it does. And it should be mandatory, honestly speaking, if you're asking me, for anyone in the teaching profession to do. But of course, they're not experts. They can't be experts. They might not want to be experts. It might not be an area of interest for them. But also equally, it is a study that should encapsulate exactly that, special educational needs and disabilities. It is niche. It needs specific attention. Much of those skills can be applied to all children and probably should be applied to all children. And there's lots in there that would benefit every child. But what won't benefit the children who need it the most is being pulled out of school and put in a different school that didn't serve them in the first place. It's their school being shut down. It's their school not even being built because those plans have been scrapped. It's being overwhelmed, overcrowded and underfunded. Yet Bridget Phillipson, the master of all things education, we are told, think that's a good idea. Well done, Bridget. It's a shit idea. She's closing schools at a rate of knots, and schools are closing under her tenure at a rate of knots. So with one hand, she's wielding the axe saying that's not even going to get off the drawing board. So all the schools that were planned, the 46 free school projects that were planned, they've gone. The 58 special schools that were planned, they're in limbo. Then we've got the 80-odd independent schools that have closed. We've got the 11,000 unemployed teachers from the independent sector that are being kicked out of the independent sector because the revenue going into the independent sector has been stymied. It has been curtailed. It has been because they've put VAT on education. 11,000 teachers will need a new job. But unemployment's not rising, apparently. No, none of that. It's all absolutely fine. There's loads of jobs, said no one ever. We are asking teachers who have a teaching qualification to suddenly become specialist teachers. How devaluing for specialist teachers. How absolutely devaluing for the teacher who has done their teaching qualification and then gone on to be a specialist teacher, and now if you get 48 Green Shield stamps and a stripe that says I've had 38 burgers from McDonald's, you can be a specialist teacher. I realise I'm taking the piss a bit, but you get my point. There's a reason that it is a specialist sector, in the same way that a brain surgeon is not a GP and a GP is not going to perform brain surgery. They're different. They might be under the medical profession, but that's where it ends. So specialist teachers are teachers. Teachers are teachers. We're under the education umbrella. That's the lot. That's it. But we're supposed to be happy with this. We're building some nice calming rooms for the children. What about the kids that can't get to those rooms? I know they're local. They're only 2 minutes away from your house. You may walk merrily, hold hands and skip to the school that you've got massive avoidance issues from. But you can skip there. It's local, so you should go there. But what if you can't get your child in that school? Why can't you get your child in that school? They're naughty. Naughty child that won't go to school. Bad, avoiding child. Naughty. Don't like that. We've made you a nice special calming room. You should come. Why can't you come? Because you don't understand it, Bridget. You don't understand the needs of these children. You don't understand because you're not a specialist in this area. And nor are the people that you're working with. You work in government. You are an MP. You have a very different set of skills. I'll leave it there. You have a very different set of skills to that of a specialist teacher. So why are we not listening to the teachers? Daniel Kabidi from the National Education Union, he's listening and he's saying they're all pissed off. They're leaving in droves. We are 400 down on our teaching payroll than we were before Labour came in, but we're supposed to be 6,500 up, but that's not happening. No, we're not admitting to that. We're not saying that. We're not admitting to the tens of thousands of children that have been displaced since she came into power. Tens of thousands of children are no longer at the school of their choice. Schools, actual whole educational establishments have closed. Teachers have gone, caretakers have gone, school nurses have gone, counsellors have gone, ground staff have gone, school shop staff have gone. Towns are facing the economic squeeze because schools in their town, their biggest employer, have closed. But we're not addressing that. That's no. We're not addressing that. We're going to raise £1.6 billion by adding VAT onto education. It's going to save state. But it didn't, did it? It did the exact opposite. It collapsed state. It has collapsed state. Now, I said this 17 months ago, longer than 17 months ago. I was standing at my kitchen sink, banging on about it. And I was told, you're rich, pay the extra. And I was going, that's not the point. The point is, there is no extra in there. It's not a case of, oh, okay, I'll go and raid the savings. If the money was there, it would have been paid and we would have saved state. It wasn't, they didn't, it hasn't. It has eroded the state system. And Bridget Phillipson is applying the fantastically naive logic of Labour, which is let's politicise this, let's get all political on this, let's do this politically, and let's absolutely ignore the experiences right now, today, of the families and kids. Let's just ignore that. That doesn't matter. What matters is ratings and polls and ideologies. And I said I'd do it, so I'm going to do it. And it was my cross to bear because I had such a bad time as a child. So I'm therefore going to ruin everybody else's. But it doesn't matter because in my head, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. Head teachers across the country are screaming out. Teachers are screaming out and then they're leaving. School nurses are screaming out and then they're leaving. Therapists are saying, do you know how many more children we are having coming through our doors because of the issues that they are facing with this ridiculous education system? But nobody's listening. La, 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 I can't hear you. It was a good idea at the time. I thought of it. I won. I'm the MP for wherever I am. It is me, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson. Shut up. Just shut up. You absolutely have to come to the table or leave your seat. Because this is vandalism. And it's only to have it explained, it's only to see it, to realise exactly what that means. We are vandalising children's choices. We are saying, have a breakfast, it's going to change your life outcomes. Well, whose? It is going to change life outcomes, that's absolutely right. It's changing the life outcomes of the parents that are having to pay for the breakfast that the kids are getting for free. It's changing the children's life outcomes who think that taxpayer-funded breakfasts are free. I mean, what the hell are we going to do with that in our economy when we've got a generation of kids that go, oh, but it's free. No, it's taxpayer-funded. What's that? What's that? Oh, that's the thing that sent my parents over the edge. Yes, that's that. That's that thing. Tax. But all we're doing is living out what we think would work on paper in the big book of Labour. This is how Labour does it. You know, what were those kids' books that they were? Oh, I can't even remember, but Mummy does this. It's like a Ladybird book of Labour. Labour says, Simon says, Labour says. And on paper, they think it works. On paper, it looks like a really good political ideology. But the reality is it's miles apart. I mean, we're almost in a different orbit with how far apart it is. But what's happening? What's the actual reality? Well, the actual reality is little people, children, vulnerable children who are completely at our mercy. Their education is 100% directed by us, the adults. And us, the adults, the parents, who wanted to direct our children's education in a certain way that would meet their needs, that would meet them as a child, that would perhaps avoid a trauma response of going to a school that they couldn't cope with, that would perhaps support their additional needs so that they could achieve and get a job that suited them, that gave them the life chances that they wanted, not what Labour wanted, but what the kid wanted, what the child wanted. Those people were the parents. They were the ones that said, I understand them the best. I know what they need the best. And I'm going to let them, make them have that. I'm going to support that. I'm going to do whatever it is I need to do to make that happen. And if I can't do that, then hopefully, because the system that should be in place is there, that's not being saturated by kids that have been thrown into it, hopefully there will be educated support in that system for me and my child. But there is not. There is a series of blunders every single day. And every day that passes that a child loses access to education is eroding their life chances. Every day a parent comes home absolutely at their wits' end, unable to pay the bills, unable to pay the school fees, unable to pay the rent, unable to pay the heating, unable to pay whatever it is that has been adversely affected by Labour's economic policy. That adds more and more stress and more pressure onto families, and families are buckling. Families can't cope with it anymore. And at a time of year where we should all be merry and gay, there is so much sadness, stress, depression, anxiety, worry. And where's it come from? Labour.